Welcome to eDiscovery Leaders Live, where I get the chance to chat with luminaries in eDiscovery and related areas. Welcome to eDiscovery Leaders Live, hosted by ACEDS and sponsored by Reveal. I am George Sosha, Senior Vice President of Brand Awareness at Reveal. Each Friday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern, I host an episode of eDiscovery Leaders Live where I get a chance to chat with luminaries in eDiscovery and related areas. Past episodes are available on the Reveal website. Go to revealdata.com, select Resources, then select eDiscovery Leaders Live Chat. This week, we have with us Joy Murao. Murao as in meow, as in cat. Joy is the founder and CEO of PAR, or Practice Aligned Resources, a legal tech support and education company. She has over 20 years experience building and managing specialized global legal support teams for AmLaw 25 law firms, Latham & Watkins, Paul Hastings. These days, she shares her practice experience and skill set with the larger legal community, not just that elite tier of law firms. Through PAR's support and education programs, Joy aligns big law, practice support level service and technology to corporate and government law departments, sharing her, and I'm getting out of my order here, but sharing all that with corporate and government law departments as well as law firms of all sizes. So Joy, welcome. We are glad to have you here.
And thank you for having me. Sorry, I ruined the set. Looks like the power light just went out.
These things happen. I read my script from the wrong line, your lights come on, whatever, we're good. I'd like to jump right in here because unlike most weeks, I do have a hard stop at the half hour. So I'd like to get going right away and ask you, let's go to the big questions. What are your big missions when it comes to all of this?
Okay, big missions. Well, first of all, everyone knows my name's Joy, and I always joke about this because I do really think that what we do every day in regards to legal support, and it's a lot of hard work in litigation, and how do you bring all that joy to what you do every day? And I think a lot of that is removing frustration, feeling confident, right? Deploying the right technology and aligning resources to your practice. I think that's a big thing. So when I was working in big law, and I know that for me, I've always loved what I do. Not every day. So I remember there was one day where it's like, oh my goodness, this is just crazy. And there should be a company that could do X, Y, Z. And what that meant to me was training, education, specific education for attorneys, because every day you're trying to consult, but you realize you have to kind of take a step back and bring everyone on the same page. So my mission is to bring that baseline, what you've done with EDRM and providing that structure in regards to that visual, but bringing that to a practical aspect. And that's why I love being a part of ACEDS, just trying to push that mission overall globally. But then from a practice standpoint, the practical application of technology, that's always been a little bit of a gap or a wild card, because it really does matter what litigation support program or what firm you're at. Everything's a little different because everyone's strategy, everyone's understanding of the value of this support team, it differs. And so that consistency in the operational side has always been a little bit it's been lacking, right? So that would be my mission, is to bridge the gap between IT and legal, and also connect all the dots of the wonderful training and education and structure that already exists, and tie it together and really help the lawyers and the paralegals and actually the clients understand the value of bringing this all together. So that's PAR.
Yesterday, you and I were on a call with the San Diego Paralegals Association. And I'd like to focus on the paralegal part of this in particular, because so often I think paralegals can be the unsung heroes in this process. Remind us just how valuable paralegals are and what they bring to the world of eDiscovery.
Well, a lot of people don't know this, but I went to paralegal school, and I was one of those early people coming out thinking that I would go to law school, right? Let me go become a paralegal, understand the legal environment, see if I really like it before I invest in that. And so I was really fortunate to get the same education that a lot of paralegals have today, right, which is a certified ABA program. So to that, when I got my job, I really, my first job in the legal industry at O'Melveny, it was in litigation support. I didn't mean to, but I was applying for a paralegal job, and someone saw my resume and said, she belongs over here in this other group. So being in this new group and understanding, well, I really want to be a paralegal, was that draw to me. So I really try to connect the dots again on how can I leverage my paralegal side or still learn about what paralegals do and leverage that. Because to be honest, as I was moving forward in litigation support, there really weren't a lot of us. There still is no school to generate the hundreds and if not thousands of legal technologists we need in this industry. We've all had to learn on the job. A lot of us are paralegals or attorneys from background who just had an inclination for technology. So today I still teach at paralegal schools, and I do see this opportunity for paratechnicals. And I think that because paralegals are on the case teams, they're sitting with the attorneys side by side, they're talking to clients, they're the ones who are the immediate right hand of that lawyer. And so I personally believe that we need to train them, to arm them and tool them to be the best for that client or for the attorney. So I think paralegals play a valuable role, not just in like the technology part, because that's another area in regards to like learning about SQL and all the back end stuff, but the practice side, the practical application of all the tools we're giving them. That's what the paralegal is doing with the attorney. So they're just so well positioned to be there and offer that service. So I think that paralegals are high value employees. The problem again is the inconsistency of the management of them, right? You go to every different firm and they deploy the utilization of these paralegals differently. You have some that have a great structure. I came from Latham where we had a wonderful structure of a paralegal assistant, a paralegal 1, 2, a senior paralegal, and then these specialists who really, after 15 years, technically probably could go to law school and run that, be a lawyer in that department, right? Because they've really specialized. So that's great. But then you have other places where paralegals are wearing the jack of all trades, right? Today they're the receptionist, and tomorrow they're sitting in with a client meeting and we're helping the attorneys file the briefs and doing all those different things. So it's just interesting that no matter what, I think the paralegals could be better served if they had more tools at their disposal, understood the value of them, and actually could articulate and justify the procurement of these tools, or at least the utilization of these tools. Now with the market the way it is, when we talk about a per gig society in regards to, you don't have to buy a big, $100,000, $200,000 application anymore. You actually can bring and get a case on a per gig charge, right? So now you do have access to tools. And so I think for me, again, tying to the mission, to help make paralegals more valuable, at least perceived value, because we know they're I know they're valuable. They know they're valuable, but sometimes a perceived value is not there. And I just want to make sure that we're helping bring that bar and set that par for paralegals and lawyers to specifically address legal technology in legal in general. It's still not taught consistently across the country in law schools or in paralegal schools. So hopefully, we'll help bring the value of paralegals to the forefront.
For those paralegals who are not so fortunate as to have the type of structure you had in place at Latham, but who are working as the jack of all trades and are expected to be doing this and this and this and this and this and eDiscovery.
Yes.
Give them a few pointers for how they can be successful at that.
Well, project management's a big thing for us in litigation support. First of all, for example, we change our titles pretty quickly, but everything is a project. So I would say for paralegals, be mindful that you are a project manager. You may not have that title, but you are operationally and functionally doing that, where you're managing expectations, weighing risk, and meeting deadlines and trying to do all that. So I would suggest to paralegals, even if you can't afford to get a full certified PMP, I think certifications are great. I aspire to them myself, but sometimes you don't have the time or the money or the resources to actually get that final test done. But that doesn't stop you from learning the principles and getting familiar with some of the overarching themes. Start to slowly incorporate that. So I'd say project management. Two, look at all the free resources that have been available through COVID, but also before that. I mean, EDRM.net has been an amazing area for resources. You can look at Sedona. There are just so many ACEDS. There's just so many organizations, especially if you're a member of your local paralegal association. There are resources and connections that you can go to. I myself, and what we're trying to design for 2021 is really focused on paralegals, individual paralegals, taking control of their career. So I think that's my big suggestion for paralegals is don't wait for someone to give it to you, right? You're going to have to be curious and seek it. And now with the interwebs, you can go on Google and even look up I remember looking up hard copy scanning or something like that, because it was, paper is a little bit of the past, but I'm just finding more and more of the larger corporations, paper are just been stored in warehouses. They've been swept into the rug.
There.
Yeah, they're still there. And all of a sudden people are like, how do we do this? I'm like, what do you mean, how do you do this? We're having 50 boxes just drop. I'm like, stop. We always, here's a process. Let's go back. And it was just kind of funny having to Google and go back and get material to explain scanning and coding and, all the like that we did 25 years ago, that it's still relevant today. So the thing for paralegals is, no, it's not too late. I try and encourage everyone that the ship has not sailed. There is still a big divide between people who are either paralegals or attorneys who understand how to deploy or employ technology. So just be curious and use your resources, use your connections. LinkedIn has been amazing as you watch these different webinars. Everyone that I've been on panels with has always said, link me in and write me, email me. I think there's a lot of us that we've had to learn the hard way, right? On the job, hard knocks. And so we just are happy to pay it forward and help the next generation bring and be at a higher level than we started with, right? Like every parent, you want the next generation to have it a little bit easier than you did. So utilize us. I think it's an amazing opportunity. And 2021, I'm hoping it's going to be great things for everybody.
For the lawyers out there, how can they more effectively utilize paralegals in particular, given our topic here, paralegals with eDiscovery expertise?
Well, I first think seek them out, because they're not all there, not all built the same, right? There are going to be paralegals who are great at managing eDiscovery projects. There are going to be paralegals who understand some of the true nitty-gritty stuff like document coding and searching databases. And then there's just going to be some that are great at working with clients and explaining things or being more of a consultant level. So just know, seek them out and understand what role or what value they can bring to you. As an attorney, I would say really they're great tools. Again, I don't know if people are using eDiscovery Assistant or other different kinds of case law that are available to them. Understand how technology has helped cases move forward or minimize motion practice or minimize claims spoliation, right? I mean, there are just so many things that from a legal perspective of competency that we have to worry about there. So I think, one, understanding how eDiscovery plays in your litigation, and then two, understand what your workflow is at your firm. Some people bill differently. So when you have fixed billing, it's not going to be more profitable when you make mistakes, all right? So rework is very expensive. So understand how your projects are billed, and not that if you're an hourly working revenue generator that you don't want to do that. You definitely want to. But I think that some of those mistakes or the common hiccups in eDiscovery, both sides have them. Let's just be very clear, both sides have them in regards to plaintiff and defense. It's just making sure you're prepared for them. And I would say seek out your paralegals and see what you have. What's that saying? If you got to know it, learn it, or hire it, right? So your paralegals are your first stop. Legal secretaries also have been doing a great job of getting and learning more technology, so I would not discount your legal secretary. Also, when you start looking at records departments, ARMA has started to integrate eDiscovery practices in there, so just make sure you understand what resources you have available to you, and then if not, seek outside resources. There are a lot of different service providers there that are built for this. I remember when I was growing up in the field, right? Because we kind of, I don't know, George, we were all there before eDiscovery became eDiscovery. So
it didn't even have a name when we started, or no common consistent name.
I know people are like, you didn't start. I'm like, yeah, well, good
Yeah.
genes, but yeah, I was there in the beginning. And so my vendors, my suppliers were the ones who I turned to and said, how do we do this? What is this? So I just want to thank all the different service providers that have worked with me through the years. That's how I got there in regards to knowing and having knowledge. I mentioned my first time I met you, we're talking about a survey, right, at a legal tech. I just think that, again, it takes a village, and just know your resources, and your paralegals are your first stop as an attorney, and then just kind of bring that circle out.
I'd like to change focus now and put to you the next big question.
Okay.
Which I've asked others before. You know it's coming. You know what I'm going to ask, but I'm going to frame it anyway.
Okay, let me test some caffeine.
There you go. While I'm talking, you have caffeine.
Okay.
What would be your ideal eDiscovery platform? And we've got some ground rules. The ground rules basically come down to this. Assume everything is possible. Assume no financial limitations. Assume no technological limitations. Your wildest imaginings are easily achievable. What would this look like?
So am I giving away my billion-dollar idea? Is that what I'm doing?
Absolutely.
No, I think it's not a secret that I personally would love to have tools focus on the attorney's practice. My practice at Latham, the name of our group is Technology in Practice. I'd like to go to that, where we focus on the practice and we make sure the technology meets the practice where they're at. So I would say the perfect tool to me would truly be surrounded around the beginning of a case, right? The complaint and the answer. I know in a previous job, I had created a pleading clip library where we stored it. We basically our own docket for any case in the firm, and work with records. So that's great, because that was a complaint and answer to look it up. But I mean, take that complaint and pull in the causes of action, pull in early issue, our response, so that we can really hone in on the true issues and not get lost, and don't lose a story, right, that we're trying to really work towards. I think that with discovery and litigation going, 1 year, 3 year, 5 years, I mean, it becomes very drawn out, and how many different requests for productions come in and try to distract you from what your true story is. And then you're trying to read into different, did they request this because they're going down this other path? Are they going to submit an amended complaint? Like, you're trying to preempt other things too. So as a lawyer, I would wish for you tools that work the way you worked, so that not to put me out of business, like, oh, we don't need Joy or a team like Joy. No, because there's plenty of operational work in our industry, whether it's within a law firm or even moving towards corporate legal, where our client actually is storing documents, where their information is what we really care about. I see the evolution of our own profession. So I would hope that the tools are becoming more, as a friend would say, coal face, more to the front of what. It's actually a mutual friend of ours. Okay, but to bring it closer to where the practice really is, and have more integration, so that you don't have those risks of data transfer or any kind of miscalculation of data moving from one system to another. Just having tighter integrations and really understand the workflow, like the EDRM, from the beginning all the way to the end, but have that all truly be customizable, integral and customizable. Because again, different practice areas, complex litigation versus criminal, right? There are nuances that are different in the practice, but overall, getting your story to come across, and how do we get the facts to support that, right? So that's what would be my wish.
When I first started practicing, there were a few things that the senior law firms at the firm I was at wanted to make sure we, the fresh crop of associates, understood about the practice of law. And two things come to mind right now as you're talking about this. One was the notion that when we did mostly defense work, when you initially receive the complaint, the very first thing, or one of the very first things to do, is to write the jury instructions, because that tells you what your end game and end objectives are. Then as you work through the case, of course, you're going to be revising and rewriting them, but you keep looking to them, asking at each step of the way, is what I am planning on doing helping get me there? And if it's not, why am I doing it?
Exactly.
Sounds like you would like that concept baked right into this ideal platform.
Yeah, because again, that's truly one, to be focused and understand that, keep everyone on the same page, right? How many different associates do we have working normally on these large litigations, and paralegals, you have the different levels. How do we have something we can go to and all know what we're all trying to achieve, right? That's first of all, the communication. And then you mentioned the visual before with the EDRM. I do like that the tool hopefully will be visual so that people know where their place is. I know CaseMap early on was doing really well for us. I had not known about the tool until I think it was Bob Wiss called me and said, do you know you have 8 partners using this tool? I'm like, what? They bought it on their own? Oh, this must be a really good tool. I have to see you tomorrow.
Right. Because when does that happen, right?
Yeah, really, I mean, not saying that they don't want to spend their own money, but it does take a lot of extra effort to find a tool, try it, and then actually buy it and say, this is what I want all my associates to use, because this is how I'm going to work and I'm the partner. I think a lot of that was that, George, with them thinking and writing out their strategy, having their issues listed, thinking about the different facts that they want to get to, or maybe looking at certain hot documents and saying, is it for us or against us? It had a rating, and so that you could put your notes and have teams go off and research those projects. I mean, that was amazing in that it was at hub for the lawyer and their associates. And that is really, I haven't seen much around that since then.
It's no surprise, really, that they built it that way, because, as I'm sure you know, their background was as jury research consultants.
Exactly.
That was what they did. They worked with folks at trial. Yep.
Decision quest, yes, exactly, and that, right, that they knew that was what they're all trying to get towards. And even people say, well, we don't always go to trial, but you do prepare to go to trial, and everything the facts that you're building for your case are things that you're going to use in your settlement hearings, are things that you're going to use for your client to justify, do we move forward or not. So I think that the use of that information is not just for trial, right? It's going to be used earlier to hopefully have that win for you. The win doesn't have to be the verdict itself. It could be, hey, we settled for 10 cents on the dollar, we're happy. That's a win. And so I think the technology should get us there.
So a second thing that those attorneys I was talking about earlier tried to stress to us, the new crop of associates back in 1987, was that right after you write those jury instructions, you start to figure out what your theory of the case is going to be. What is the story you are going to tell? What are the unifying themes that you're going to push forward? Here's my very leading question. Do you think this ideal platform should enable you to do that more effectively?
Yes. I mean, because again, not that saying we have a huge attrition where you wouldn't have a consistency in your associates, but people do transition. It is hard to, we're not mind readers, right? And so how many different versions of a memo or a document, or how many work product, our document management systems hold millions of records in these big law firms. I don't have I have a central spot for the documents, but to actually tease out the content that I really care about, that's not there yet, right? So I would think that, yes, it'd be very centralized on how the attorney works, and be focused on that, and give them an opportunity to work it through, like I use MindMeister, right? A brainstorming thing. So these tools exist, disparate technologies, so bring it all in so I can use it. Like, okay, I'm thinking of something and it's building, like, oh, I want that research. Click a button, associate, go research here. Here's my little MindMeister and what I was going, or whatever, my brainstorm circle, and go research that and then add it in and add some facts. And, then it's going to build on that bubble. I think it's amazing that also for the associates showing value to the partner, right? Associates, most people want to be on a partner track. And this is a great way to give insights onto how the associates are working and to show their value. Same thing with paralegals, right? An associate or an attorney gives that to a paralegal. A paralegal will be able to demonstrate the work and effort they put into. And a client could feel value like, okay, that 30 hours, okay, that was worth it because here's what that is. And then from a knowledge management standpoint, could that all be kind of reused in the research itself, the thought itself, obviously sanitized for the specific client matter that you're working on? But wouldn't those, oh, look, the lights came back on.
There you go.
And then there was light. Hey, that must have been a good idea. I should have done this like that. But anyway, but wouldn't that be amazing if these tools could bring that case team together and everyone knows their value and there are minimized mistakes or the rework, right? Because sometimes you go down a research path and you realize, you know what, that's a no-go, let's go backwards. But I say sometimes you learn not only on the good stuff, but you also learn by the bad stuff, right?
Absolutely. So one last question before we run out of time.
Okay.
How much should the users be directing the system in your ideal system? How much should the system be directing the users? What should that interplay look like?
Well, I think, first of all, initially during design, I think it should all be users focused because that's who we're designing for, right? That the technology should be built for the user. Now, and those are subject matter experts. Those are people who are designing the system. But as it goes forward into production, I would think that the system does guide users because it's a training tool, right? Not everyone's going to be the subject matter expert. As I mentioned, attorneys are coming out every year in the big law. We're training them on how to go from law school to practicing lawyers, right? I mean, they don't even know how to file a document with the court, right? So, I mean, the operational aspect of uploading a document and everything. But, right, so I would say that the tool at that point would be guiding them down. If you ask a question like import the complaint, here's the issues, here's the answers that the partners have put and submitted, here are their ideas, here's what you should go research. I think it will guide that next team, the next level, and then through time, they will iterate and give feedback on, you know what, can I just go ahead and have artificial intelligence go research Lexis and Westlaw? Can I, whatever that is, right? Like through time, when people actually use the tools, they can then give more feedback. And so if it's iterative, it's going to be amazing.
And that's what we all want, amazing, right?
Amazing, exactly.
Joy, thank you very much for taking the time to visit with us today. We've been talking with Joy Murao, founder and CEO of Practice Aligned Services. I'm George Sosha. This has been eDiscovery Leaders Live, hosted by ACEDS and sponsored by Reveal. Thank you all for joining us today. We'll be taking a break until the new year. We'll be back on January 8th, Friday, January 8th, when we talk with Kristen Sunderman, who is Litigation Support Director, Legal Division at Freddie Mac. Thanks.
Happy holidays.